Hey YouTube, it's James. I'm back again with I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Norman L. Geisler and Frank Turek, despite my angry rant at the end of the last chapter, or the middle of the last chapter. That chapter took me 2 videos to get through, with like an hour in between of calming down time. It was pretty bad. This chapter doesn't look like it's going to be any better. So, I brought more sport in the form of my lovely girlfriend,
Hello.
who decided she didn't really want to be in the video, but would chip in if she got mad enough.
I probably will.
She probably will. Hold on, stick around.
Oh.
I want you here for the opening quote.
Oh boy. Should I be afraid?
Yes. Starting off chapter 6 here with chapter 6, new life forms from the goo to you via the zoo, phrased as a question, the answer to which is no, it doesn't work like that. Nothing works like that. Shut up. Sorry, I'm already off to an angry start, but, well, if you remember, or if you visited talkorigins.org, like I suggested you do at the end of the previous video, you probably know a bit more about evolution now, and know just how dumb that is, if you didn't already. Anyways, we're done quoting anyone who has anything useful to say at all, anywhere. I think we stopped doing that last chapter with the flood geologist, but this quote tops that one. So, in grammar school, they taught me that a frog turning into a prince was a fairy tale. In the university, they taught me that a frog turning into a prince was a fact. By Ron Carlson. I don't know who Ron Carlson is, but once again, that's totally stupid.
What?
Once again, fundamental misunderstanding of evolution. I want to find out who this guy is so I can hunt him down. Novelist and short story writer.
Credentials.
A liberal arts major. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Received a master's degree in English from the University of Utah. Creative writing professor.
As a creative writing major, I can safely say that I don't know enough about evolution to be giving quotes on it.
Yeah. Well, anyways. Frog turning into a prince. Yeah, that's... It's clever like a writer would come up with. It's stupid like somebody with no science background would say. You're a writer. Read a book. So yeah, anyways. Girlfriend's backing out of camera frame now. Alright. Before we continue on to the chapter, I wanted to note a few things. Reiterate a few things. I still haven't read this book. It's still my thoughts I'm having as I read this. So you're all hearing this as I'm hearing it from the book. And so my goal here isn't really to, go through step by step with all the right facts and information and just tear this book a new one. It's what I'm thinking as I'm reading it. And that means that sometime after a video, after stuff's had time to sink in, I have, new thoughts. Like in last chapter, when they were attacking, materialist science reliance on reason, or whatever, and I don't think I made a big enough deal of it at the time, but they are trying to attack reason with reason itself. Like, they're saying reason is self-defeating, but they use reason all throughout this book. And all kinds of other stupid stuff. It's just... The more I think about this book, the dumber it gets. And you saw how dumb I thought it was at the time. So, I guess we should dive right in before I talk myself out of this, huh? Alright. In the movie Contact, I have not seen Contact. If you have, tell me if they get this wrong. Jodie Foster plays a scientist who is part of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence research team. Yes, SETI. SETI, which is a real organization, has scientists who scan space for unmistakable signs of intelligent life. What constitutes an unmistakable sign of intelligent life? A message. Are we back to the message stuff already? That's right, something like, take out the garbage mom. Yeah. We've been over this. Your message, evolution, DNA stuff, you're wrong. DNA message, wrong. All that stuff that's in the universe that's, just right for humans to survive or whatever. Not a message, you're wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong. In the movie, Foster gets extremely excited when her antenna picks up radio waves that appear to have an intelligent pattern. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, those are primes, she exclaims. Meaning prime numbers. Yes. I suppose you would have to specify that to the targeted audience of this book. That can't be natural phenomena. Indeed, random radio waves can be naturally produced, but those contain a message always have an intelligent source. Prime numbers, from 1 to 101 in order, constitute a message that only comes from an intelligent being. Well, if this is going the same place as the message story from earlier with the cereal and the sand and the cloud writing or whatever, then it's still wrong. They're still wrong. Foster is so confident that E.T. has been found, she goes public with her discovery. Government and military officials then converge on her facility. If this is such an intelligent source, then why don't they just speak English? One official asks with a hint of derision. I don't know if you've noticed yet, I'm bad with pronunciation. I read more than I talk, so... because math is the only universal language, Foster fires back. Of course she's right. In fact, alphabets and thus language itself can be ultimately reduced to numbers. This is why the English alphabet is mathematically identical to the genetic alphabet of DNA, and why the comparison of cell information to encyclopedias is a one-to-one relationship rather than just analogy. No, it's not! You're wrong! Let's think about this for a second, because math is the only universal language, Foster fires back. Of course she's right. In fact, alphabets, and thus language itself, can be ultimately reduced to numbers. This is why the English alphabet is mathematically identical to the genetic alphabet of DNA, and why the comparison of cell information to encyclopedias is a one-to-one relationship rather than just an analogy. Give me a sec, I'm jumping ahead a couple sentences to see if this goes anywhere. Because if they flesh this out more, I don't want to... Anyways. While Foster and colleagues later discover a more complicated message embedded in the radio waves, they are absolutely certain that prime numbers alone prove that the message came from intelligent life. Why are they so certain of this? Because repeated observation tells us that only intelligent beings create messages, and that natural laws never do. When we see a sequence of prime numbers, we realize that it requires an intelligent cause, just like the messages, take out the garbage mom, yeah, whatever. Sorry, they keep talking about take out the garbage mom and Mary Liv Scott and stuff, and if you mind me skipping it, once I've established that that's what they're saying, I'm posting in the comments. I don't want to waste my time. I'm sick of this book. I'm going to keep going for as long as I can, because I'd feel bad if I didn't give it my very best effort, but I'm just going to save time now. This book has already proven it doesn't have anything worthwhile to say. Ironically, Contact was based on a novel by the late Carl Sagan, who, an ardent evolutionist, who believed in spontaneous... Will you stop talking about Carl Sagan? You don't have the right to say his name. Who believed in spontaneous generation and who was instrumental in starting the real SETI program. The irony lies in the fact that Sagan was absolutely convinced that a simple string of prime numbers proves the existence of an intelligent being, but the equivalent of 1,000 encyclopedias in the first one-celled life does not. They're wrong still! They keep saying this about 1,000 encyclopedias, and they're talking about like the fucking amoebas, like they're talking about modern amoebas when they're saying that. And I already discussed all this. I discussed this at the beginning of my last video. I'm not going over it again because, frankly, It's not worth it. If you want to hear it again, go back and watch the beginning of the last video again. Simple string of prime numbers. Sorry, this is still stupid for exactly the same reasons. They're still wrong for exactly the same reasons. And they just keep going. Moreover, it was Sagan who wrote this about the human brain. The information content of the human brain expressed in bits is probably comparable to the total number of connections among the neurons, about 100 trillion bits. If written out in English, say, that information would fill some 20 million volumes, as many as in the world's largest libraries. The equivalent of 20 million books is inside the heads of every one of us. The brain is a very big place in a very small space. The neurochemistry of the brain is astonishingly busy. The circuitry of a machine more wonderful than any devised by humans. The thing here you see is Carl Sagan understood, his own fucking metaphor. He knows it's an analogy. He knows that it's not actually books in your brain. And that's not what, I guess that's not exactly what they're saying. They're not saying the genetic code really is a bunch of little tiny encyclopedias all lined up. But it's, just as smart as what they're saying. It's just as stupid. They might as well be saying that. Actually, Sagan probably underestimated the brain's information content at 20 million books. Nevertheless, the figure is still stunning. To conceptualize it, picture yourself at center court of Madison Square Garden several hours before a basketball game. You are the only one in the arena, and you're looking at almost 20,000 empty seats all around you. How many books would you have to stack in each seat in order to fit 20 million books in that arena? You would need to stack 1,000 books on each and every seat to fit 20 million books in Madison Square Garden. Think about that. Why? That doesn't mean anything. Once again, big numbers don't mean anything just because they're big. Think about that. The roof is not high enough to allow that many books. You'd have to blow off the roof and keep stacking. It's not the only thing it's not the only thing getting blown off. Yeah, that was childish. I don't care. These people have a preschool level understanding of science. And probably preschoolers that know more about science. I like preschoolers. You can teach preschoolers. Sorry guys, getting mad. I'll try to calm down here. Sagan was indeed right that the brain is a very big place in a very small space, and it's something immeasurably more sophisticated than anything humans have ever created. Now let's review the facts. Sagan realized that the human brain has the information content of 20 million books. He also realized that it's drastically more specified and complex than a string of prime numbers. Once again, specified complexity doesn't mean anything. It's a word they throw around to make it sound like there was an intelligent designer for the universe. There's no real definition for specified complexity that means anything to anyone. So, once again, shut up. We're still on the 1000 encyclopedia stuff. Okay, we spent an entire chapter on this, and we're still going. Somebody in the comments of one of my previous videos pointed out that they are making the same "we're right and you're wrong" argument without really arguing anything, without really saying anything, and without providing anything new over and over and over again. Yes, they are. Thank you, commenter. That was, Nerazart? Anyways, yeah, thank you for pointing that out, because it's true. They're making the exact same argument, which is complete and utter garbage, again and again and again, like them repeating it like a magical mantra. Almost like a prayer, you might say. Huh. Anyways. Then why did he think the simpler message required an intelligent being, but not the one 20 million books long? Not the same thing, that's why. We might also ask Sagan and his fellow Darwinists a question with similar weight, if intelligent... Once again, I'm going to point out that the Darwinist label is something that only anti-science, creationist, intelligent design losers use. Like, anyone who calls anyone a Darwinist automatically proves that they don't know anything about evolution. If intelligent human beings can't create anything close to the human brain, why should we expect non-intelligent natural laws to do so? If we can't expect intelligent human beings to create something as complex as the human brain, maybe intelligence couldn't create it. Let's turn that back on itself here for a second. Maybe if it's too complex for the... You went on about how you observe things and see if similar things are happening or have happened. You said with the Mount Rushmore thing and the Grand Canyon and stuff earlier on in the previous chapter. So, if the only example we have of intelligent life can't create anything near the complexity of the human brain, maybe it wasn't intelligent life that created the human brain. Huh. Food for thought. The Darwinist response will usually involve natural selection. I don't know, maybe. You don't know what natural selection is, so I don't know what you mean by natural selection. I don't think they've talked about natural selection yet. I'm just assuming, based on everything else they've said in this book, that they have no idea what natural selection actually is. Is this sufficient to account for new life forms? After all, it's a long way from one cell to the human brain. 6 billion years, you might say. That's a long ways. Just saying. Fuck me, this is dumb. What about new life forms? Before discussing the origin of new life forms, we need to revisit the problem of the origin of first life. No, we don't. You spent an entire chapter on that. An entire chapter full of the dumbest shit I'd ever seen in my life. I might add. A chapter so dumb, it caused me to, I had given up on the book. I decided to come back and do more, but at the time, I had given up. That's how dumb it was. So, that's the most difficult problem for Darwinists. Where did first life come from? And I want to take this time to point out that, that same commenter said that they keep associating evolution and abiogenesis, but they are, in fact, two different theories. I hadn't thought of that, hadn't occurred to me reading chapter 5, but it is true. Abiogenesis is separate from evolution. You don't need one for the other. Just thought I'd point that out. Do you see the magnitude of the problem for Darwinists? If Darwinists don't have an explanation for the first life, then what's the point of speaking about new life forms? And once again, they do have an explanation. Like, the abiogenesis has an explanation for first life. You didn't refute it in the previous chapter. So, don't listen to these guys, is what I'm saying, as they're talking here. The process of macroevolution, if it's possible at all, can't even begin unless there's pre-existing life. Okay, that makes it sound like they're going to attack macroevolution, which is glorious. If they're really going to attack evolution, like, they just spent time attacking abiogenesis and failing. Now they're going to attack macroevolution, a force that is as proven as gravity. As surely as the Earth orbits around the sun, evolution happens. And that's fact. That said, let's dive in. But as we saw in the last chapter, this doesn't stop the Darwinists. Against all empirical and forensic evidence, Darwinists make up a just-so story, spontaneous generation or panspermia, that magically gives them the first life they need. This isn't science, this is a joke. In fact, it reminds us of a joke. I guarantee you, this joke will almost certainly not be funny. They've proven they have no sense of humor. Worth mentioning. I believe that was a major complaint of mine in chapter 4? Whatever. Steve Martin used to say, I know how you can be a millionaire, never pay taxes. First get $1 million. Okay, now. Okay, that actually is funny. And of course, they're saying, they're comparing abiogenesis and evolution, whatever. It's fucking dumb. They seem to think here that evolution is dependent on abiogenesis, which is wrong. It's wrong. They're wrong. Still wrong. So wrong. The Darwinist position is even more problematic when you consider they don't even have an explanation for the source of the non-living chemicals, much less an explanation for life. As we saw in Chapter 3, one of the most profound questions to ask is, if there is no God, why is there something rather than nothing at all? And that's a stupid, retarded question. I think I linked to a video at the end of Chapter 3 that was a pretty good refutation of their entire argument for the cosmological argument or whatever. So, if you haven't seen that yet, go back and watch that, because it's really good and smarter than anything I could say. Certainly more knowledgeable than anything I could say. We saw the atheists have no plausible answer to this question. And not that you have a plausible answer to this question. Once again, God did it isn't an answer. Suggesting a possibility is not enough. They have to present evidence if they are going to be scientific. Funny that you should say that. You don't have evidence of anything. You just say God did it. You don't try and prove it. On the rare occasions you do try and prove it, you're proven wrong. Mostly, though, you just don't try and prove it. It's obvious they don't know where the universe came from. Mostly because that's a really big question with a whole lot of possible answers. Science is working on it, you aren't. A good box top should be able to plausibly explain all of the data. Once again, your box top is a crayon drawing of a bearded man who sits in the sky and tells you what to do. Someone might say I'm being unfair with that. I don't think I am. This guy's box top is definitely in crayon. Maybe not everybody's. Like I said earlier on, I know all Christians are not like this. This guy, his box top, crayon drawing. And not a particularly good one. It's a crayon drawing done in Sunday school. And not a particularly good one. If it can't answer the fundamental questions of the origin of the world or the origin of life, it's not a viable box top. It's time to look for a new one. They are. That's what science is doing. They're looking for the box top. You're not. You said God did it. Once again, not an answer. Saying God did it does not provide any useful anything. Even though we see that the Darwinist box top is fundamentally flawed, we need to take a look at the claims of the Darwinists that the Darwinists make regarding the origin of new life forms. Their theory is macroevolution. Microevolution versus macroevolution. You remember macroevolution from the goo to you via the zoo, a stupid oversimplification that is basically wrong. They're wrong. Wrong! It's the belief that all life forms have descended from a common ancestor, the first one-celled creature. I don't think that it says that at all, actually. Necessarily. I don't think it necessitates one single common ancestor. Don't quote me on that, because I'm not 100% certain, but I wouldn't be surprised. Just from what I was reading from the quick bits of reading I was doing on abiogenesis theories, a lot of them would allow for simultaneous arising of multiple simple organic replicators or whatever, you know? So I don't think it's predicated on there being a single common ancestor. Not that you'd expect these guys to know that. I don't know why I'm bothering anymore, really. The first one-celled creature, and all of this has happened by natural process without any intelligent intervention. God was not involved, it has been a completely blind process. Darwinists say this has happened by natural selection. The term natural selection is a misnomer. Since the process of evolution is by definition without intelligence, there is no selection at all going on. It's a blind process. The term natural selection simply means that the fittest creature survives. That, once again, is wrong. Okay, I'm not going to touch the selection shit because I don't give a damn, frankly, about their fucking wordplay. Yeah. I'm going to ignore their wordplay unless it, like, really irks me because it's just stupid. Don't trust them knowing the definition of a word because they're wrong. They don't know English. They don't know any language. They don't understand anything. But survival of the fittest is a misnomer. Because, once again, it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with survival. Really. Evolution is a hell of a lot more about reproduction. All you have to do is look at a peacock. They're brightly colored, easy to see. That does not encourage survival necessarily when it's that easy for a predator to spot you. What it is about is attracting a mate. The prettier peacocks attract more mates, so it's reproduction of the fittest, maybe. I don't know. It's not really an important distinction. It just proves that, once again, they don't know what they're talking about. Logically, these are the creatures that are best equipped genetically or structurally to deal with changing environmental conditions. That's why they survive. As an example of natural selection, consider what happens to bacteria attacked by antibiotics. When bacteria survive a bout with antibiotics and multiply, that surviving group of bacteria may be resistant to that antibiotic. The surviving bacteria are resistant to that antibiotic because the parent bacteria possess the genetic capacity to resist, or a rare biochemical mutation somehow helped it survive. We say rare because mutations are nearly always harmful. Since the sensitive bacteria die, the surviving bacteria multiply and now dominate. Darwinists say that the surviving bacteria have evolved. Having adapted to the environment, the surviving bacteria provide us with an example of evolution. Fair enough, but what kind of evolution? The answer we're about to give is absolutely critical. I'm sure it's not, but whatever. There's a lot of... I've heard people refuse to make a distinction between microevolution and macroevolution because there's functionally no difference. It's just, creationists can't deny microevolution. It's too obvious with that germ example, with the bacteria example. So they have to accept that and then make up some other, macroevolution that they can attack. They've got to attack as much of it as they can't, possibly refute. Lord knows they can't refute it, but they're trying. God bless their sweet little hearts, they're trying. In fact, outside of the philosophical presuppositions we've been exposing, defining evolution is perhaps the greatest point of confusion in the creation-evolution controversy. It doesn't help that a lot of dictionaries don't print accurate definitions of evolution. Actually, before they say anything, I'm going to go pull up on talkorigins.com. .org, my bad. Talkorigins.org. The definition they gave for evolution. If I can find it again. All right, reading from talkorigins.org here. The What is Evolution PDF they have up. I'm just going to read directly from this, much like I've been doing from the book. I probably won't have any comments to make, though. Let's see. Starting here. Most non-scientists seem to be quite confused about precise definitions of biological evolution. Such confusion is due in large part to the inability of scientists to communicate effectively to the general public, and also to confusion among scientists themselves about how to define such an important term. When discussing evolution, it is important to distinguish between the existence of evolution and various theories about the mechanism of evolution. And when referring to the existence of evolution, it is important to have a clear definition in mind. What exactly do biologists mean when they say they have observed evolution, or that humans and chimps have evolved from a common ancestor? One of the most respected evolutionary biologists has defined biological evolution as follows. In the broadest sense, evolution is merely change, and so is all-pervasive. Galaxies, languages, and political systems all evolve. Biological evolution is change in the properties of populations of organisms that transcend the lifetime of a single individual. The ontogeny of an individual is not considered evolution. Individual organisms do not evolve. The changes in population that are considered evolutionary are those that are inheritable via the genetic material from one generation to the next. Biological evolution may be slight or substantial. It embraces everything from slight changes in the proportion of different alleles within the population, such as those determining blood types, to the successive alterations that lead from the earliest proto-organism to snails, bees, giraffes, and dandelions. This is a quote from Douglas J. Futuyma? I'm sorry, once again, I apologize. I'm sure I mispronounced that. But, yeah. It is important to note that biological evolution refers to populations and not to individuals, and the changes must be passed on to the next generation. In practice, this means that evolution is a process that results in heritable changes in a population spread over many generations. This is a good working definition of evolution, one that can be used to distinguish between evolution and similar changes that are not evolution. Another common short definition of evolution can be found in many textbooks. Another quote here from Helena Curtis and N. Sue Barnes. In fact, evolution can be precisely defined as any change in the frequency of alleles within a gene pool from one generation to the next. One can quibble about the accuracy of such a definition, and we've often quibbled on these news groups, but it also conveys the essence of what evolution really is. When biologists say they've observed evolution, they mean they've detected a change in the frequency of genes in a population. Often the genetic change is inferred from phenotypic changes that are heritable. When biologists say that humans and chimps have evolved from a common ancestor, they mean there have been successive heritable changes in the two separated populations since they've become isolated. Unfortunately, the common definitions of evolution outside the scientific community are different. For example, in Oxford Concise Science Dictionary, we find the following definition. Evolution, the gradual process by which the present diversity of plant and animal life arose from the earliest and most primitive organisms, which is believed to have been continuing for the past 3,000 million years. This is inexcusable for a dictionary of science. Not only does this definition exclude prokaryotes, protozoa, and fungi, but it specifically includes a term, gradual process, which should not be a part of the definition. More importantly, the definition seems to refer more to the history of evolution than to evolution itself. Using this definition, it is possible to debate whether evolution is still occurring, but the definition provides no easy way of distinguishing evolution from other processes. For example, is the increase in height among Caucasians over the past several hundred years an example of evolution? Are the color changes in the peppered moth populations examples of evolution? This is not a scientific definition. Standard dictionaries are even worse. Evolution, the doctrine according to which higher forms of life have gradually risen out of lower, Chambers. Evolution, the development of a species, organism, or organ from its original or primitive state to its present specialized state, phylogeny or ontogeny, Webster's. These definitions are simply wrong. Unfortunately, it is common for non-scientists to enter into a discussion about evolution with such a definition in mind. This often leads to fruitless debate, since the experts are thinking about evolution from a different perspective. When someone claims they don't believe in evolution, they cannot be referring to an acceptable scientific definition of evolution, because that would be denying something which is easy to demonstrate. It would be like saying they don't believe in gravity. Recently, I read a statement from a creationist who claimed that scientists are being dishonest when they talk about evolution. This person believed that evolution was being misrepresented to the public. The real problem is that the public and creationists do not understand what evolution is all about. This person's definition of evolution was very different from the common scientific definition, and as a consequence, he was unable to understand what evolutionary biology really meant. This is the same person who claimed that one could not believe in evolution and still be religious. But once we realize that evolution is simply a process that results in heritable changes in a population spread over many generations, it seems a little silly to pretend that this excludes religion. Scientists, such as myself, must share the blame for lack of public understanding of science. We need to work harder to convey the correct information. Sometimes we don't succeed very well, but that does not mean we are dishonest. On the other hand, the general public, and creationists in particular, need to also work a little harder in order to understand science. Reading a textbook would help. So they say what I've been saying ever since probably chapter 4, read a damn book. A real book. That whole bit was by Lawrence Morin. It doesn't say on this page who that is. I'm going to assume, though, I can just Google that really quick. Yes, looks like a biochemist. Who's interested in molecular evolution and evolutionary theory. You know what that means? More qualified than a philosopher. Just thought I'd observe that. Alright, but yes. Thanks to Mr. Morin, we now have our a good definition of evolution. The heritable changes. And whatnot. Let's see what they have to say. Let's see. In fact, outside of the philosophical presuppositions we've been exposing, defining evolution is perhaps the greatest point of confusion in the creation-evolution controversy. This is where Darwinian errors and false claims begin to multiply like bacteria, if not checked by those who believe observation is important to science. Once again, they're acting like they are smart, rational, observant scientists when everything in this book screams otherwise. It hurts. It hurts. It causes me physical pain. I've had a headache since yesterday. Whenever they claim that they are rational observant and that the Darwinists who I'm done using the word Darwinist. I'm done using their word. Whenever they say Darwinist, I'm gonna say straw man. Because that's who they're talking about. That's what they're talking about. From now on, I'm gonna use straw man instead of the word Darwinist. For clarity. This is where straw man errors and false claims begin to multiply like bacteria if not checked by those who believe observation is important to science. Here's what observation tells us. The surviving bacteria always stay bacteria. That's fucking stupid. It's true, but it's fucking stupid. So they're basing this claim off of a single generation of bacteria. Which is stupid, for obvious reasons. I'm gonna assume you know why that's stupid and move on. They do not evolve into another type of organism. That would be macroevolution. Natural selection has never been observed to create new types. That's wrong. That's fucking wrong. I'm gonna go right now and Google this. I want some. Let's see. Examples of speciation. Oh, first link on the Google search. We're back to talkorigins.org. That's awesome. I've been on Talk Origins ever since yesterday, just washing the taste out of my mouth from Chapter 5. That was awful. Chapter 5 was bad. If you saw the video, you know what I mean. Anyways. So, okay. I've been reading this book to you, so I'm going to assume you don't mind if I just start, Oh, actually, there's a lot here. I may cover some of the highlights here and then just link to this in the video. This is actually... Wouldn't want this to run on any longer. I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't want me to interrupt reading this book to read, more. Probably wouldn't be as funny as though. Be as funny though. I'm probably not gonna get mad at this. Okay. We will read the introduction. This FAQ discusses several instances where speciation has been observed. It also discusses several issues related to speciation. I've divided this FAQ into several sections. Part 2 discusses several definitions of what a species is. Part 3 explains the context in which observations of speciation are made. Part 4 looks at the question, how can we tell when a speciation event has occurred? Part 5 describes a number of observed speciation events and several experiments which, in the writer's opinion, failed to produce speciation. Part 6 is a list of references. The descriptions of each observation come from the primary literature. I went back to this literature for 2 reasons. First, many of these observations are not discussed or not discussed in much detail in secondary sources such as reviews, texts, and popular articles. Second, it is difficult, if not impossible, to evaluate what a piece of research already actually established without looking at the methods and data. Secondary sources rarely give this information in any detail. Anyway, I've concluded only those observations which I have been able to find the original sources for. I consider this FAQ incomplete. One reason for this is that I'm still chasing references. I still have a list of over 115 to find. More important is the fact that observations of speciation are buried in papers on a number of topics. If you know of observations that I should include, let me know, and I will chase down the reference, read it, and modify the file, assuming the data are the least bit convincing. I ask that you try and give me as complete a reference as possible to aid me in finding the original source. Alright, 2. Species definitions. A discussion of speciation requires a definition of what constitutes a species. This is a topic of considerable debate within the biological community. 3 recent reviews in the Journal of Phycology give some idea of the scope of the debate. There are a variety of different species concept currently in use by biologists. These include folk, biological, morphological, genetic, paleontological, evolutionary, phylogenetic, and biosystematic definitions. In the interest of brevity, I'll discuss only 4 of these: folk, biological, morphological, and phylogenetic. A good review of species definitions is given in Stussy, 1990. That must be a paper or something. 2.1, the folk concept of species. Naturalists around the world have found that the individual plants and animals they see can be mentally grouped into a number of taxa in which the individuals are basically alike. In societies that are close to nature, each taxon is given a name. These sorts of folk taxonomies have 2 features in common. One aspect is the idea of reproductive compatibility and continuity within a species. Dogs beget dogs, they never beget cats. This has a firm grounding in folk knowledge. The second notion is that there is a discontinuity of variation between species. In other words, you can tell species apart by looking at them. The biological species concept. Over the last few decades, the theoretically preeminent species definition has been the biological species concept. This concept defines a species as a reproductive community. Okay, this does go on for a while. I'm sorry, guys. I will link to this in the description, and I'm sure I've only taken this long because it's far more interesting than this book. I'd much rather be learning about that than in here learning nothing. As it stands, I'm going to continue on here. Just know that the speciation has been observed. I don't know if it would fit. I don't know that it'll fit these people's definition for something evolving into something else. And I don't much care because they're idiots. But macroevolution is exactly what the straw men claim from the data. They say that these observable micro changes can be extrapolated to prove that unobservable macroevolution has occurred. Macroevolution is observed in transitional fossils and whatnot, and like I said, there's been observed speciation. Yeah, I'm gonna keep pointing that out, as long as they keep saying there's no evidence. Evidence is all over the place. Yeah. I'd say they were blind, but even if you were blind, you could trip over the mounds of evidence. They make no distinction between microevolution and macroevolution. There isn't really a distinction. Evolution is evolution. I think I talked about that. And thus use the evidence for micro to prove macro. By failing to make this critical distinction, straw men can dupe the general public into thinking that any observable change in any organism proves that all life has evolved from the first one-celled creature. I believe microevolution does prove macroevolution. And once again, I'm sure, go to talkorigins.org and read about it. It's more interesting than this. I don't care if you stop the video and go read it, because I wish I could. This is why it is essential that the right distinctions be made and that all hidden assumptions be exposed when discussing the creation-evolution controversy. They keep talking about the controversy. I've mentioned this before, and I'd like to point it out again. There is no creation-evolution controversy because creationism has no evidence and evolution has all the evidence. I guess I'm going to make another slight adjustment to terms. When they talk about the creation versus evolution debate, I'm going to call it the creationist versus straw evolution debate, in which they are arguing against a form of evolution that does not actually exist. They have made up their own evolution to fight, because they can't fight the real evolution. Yep. Okay, this is why it is essential that the right distinctions be made and that all hidden assumptions be exposed when discussing the creationist versus straw evolution controversy. So if someone ever asks you, do you believe in evolution, you should ask that person, what do you mean by evolution? Do you mean micro or macroevolution? Microevolution has been observed. It cannot be used as evidence for macroevolution, which has never been observed. And once again, they're talking about, have you seen this? Did you see this? Can you prove this because you saw it? And, ask them if they've ever seen God. If anybody ever asks you, did you see macroevolution, ask them, you ask, have they seen God? And don't let them fucking talk their way out of it by talking about seeing God in the universe and whatnot. Because that's fucking equivalent to what scientists... That's not actually equivalent to what scientists do. Scientists look at stuff and see stuff in stuff for reals. They look out in the universe and see God because they don't understand the universe. But fuck it. Sorry. I'll lose my composure here. Microevolution has been observed, but it cannot be used as evidence for macroevolution, which has never been observed. It can, whatever, I don't care. I'm mad at these guys, and I don't have to pretend that they're saying anything smart, because they're not. I don't have to take this seriously anymore. I'm trying to, but I don't have to. I want that established right now. I don't have to take this seriously. They've already proven themselves to be a joke. And once again, I'm distracting myself from the book because it sucks. Straw men are masters at defining the term evolution, broadly enough so that evidence in one situation might be counted as evidence in another. We just talked about that. I made sure to talk about that early on. Just back the video up a bit, read that. There's a very specific definition of evolution. It's a good evolution. It's a good definition of evolution. It's a good definition of evolution because it's a definition of evolution. Let's see if they give a definition for evolution. So that evidence in one situation might be counted as evidence in another. Unfortunately for them, the public is beginning to catch on to this tactic, thanks largely to popular works of Berkeley law professor Philip Johnson. Yes, the law professor who founded the intelligent design movement. Oh God, I really hope people aren't reading his books. Oh. No, read a real book, guys. Read real books by people that know what they're talking about. Oh no. I'm sad now. I'm sad, guys. This book makes me sad. What's unfortunate for scientists is that the public doesn't have an accurate definition of evolution. And once again, back the video up a bit and you'll go to... I read the whole Talk Origins thing on what is evolution. And it was great, because it was smarter than this shit. Johnson first exposed this straw man sleight of hand with his groundbreaking book, Darwin on Trial. That's where he points out that none of the proofs for natural selection provide any persuasive reason for believing that natural selection can produce new species, new organs, or other major changes, or even major changes that are permanent. I don't think I actually... If he was looking specifically at like Darwin stuff, I have not read Darwin's theories, so I can't really comment on that except to say that based on who just said this and their works in the book it's being said in, and the authors of said book, that's probably stupid and wrong. God only knows what he was talking about. It might not even have been natural selection. Have there been any books, like, I know there's a movie coming out now and a book that it's based on that was called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Was there ever something about Darwin? Is that what these guys are reading? Was there like a Darwin the Barbarian book or something that came out, and that these guys are reading that and thinking that's Darwin, that's what Darwin was talking about? Or something? Let me know. Biologist Jonathan Wells agrees when he writes, "Biochemical mutations cannot explain the large-scale changes in organisms that we see in the history of life. Why can't natural selection do the job? Here are 5 reasons it can't." I'm going to look up Jonathan Wells really quick, just in case he's not a real scientist. I don't trust these guys, and you shouldn't either. I misspelled Jonathan. Did I misspell Jonathan? I misspelled Jonathan and forgot his last name. At the very top of the Wikipedia page, Jonathan Wells, in parentheses, intelligent design advocate. Born in 1942, is an American author and advocate of intelligent design. Member of the Unification Church, Wells wrote the teaching... Wait. Wait. Okay. Alright. Okay, this guy's American author, advocate of intelligent design, a member of the Unification Church. Wells wrote that the teachings of church founder Sun Myung Moon. His own studies at Unification Theological Seminary and his prayers convinced him to devote his life to destroying Darwinism. Sorry, I'm going to do that automatically now. A term which intelligent design proponents often use to refer to the scientific consensus on evolution. That's great. She describes as the theory that various species developed as a wholly natural process without God's purposeful creative activity. Looking up. I'm looking at the Unification Church and Sun Myung Moon here, really quick, just to make sure I know exactly what I'm talking about. From everything I've heard, this shit's like a cult. So we have a quote from a cultist. That's just great. Now, Wikipedia isn't listing any actual credentials here. Let's see. He studied geology at Princeton University, but he dropped out in his junior year. He attended the University of California in Berkeley. It does not say. Major in geology and physics and a minor in biology. Oh, it says he has 2 PhDs in molecular and cell biology, so from the University of California at Berkeley, and one in religious studies at Yale University. He's worked as a postdoctoral researcher. I guess that's kind of impressive, but then you got to look at the fact that he's also a cultist and an intelligent design proponent. I don't know. Okay, this is one of the cases where I can't make a judgment based on credentials alone because it looks like he does have legitimate degrees. So, I haven't read his work. I can't judge, except to say that I really doubt it's legitimate just because of the crowd he hangs out with. Alright, one. Oh, hold on. I missed some stuff. Alright, why can't natural selection do the job? Here are 5 reasons it can't. 1. Genetic limits. Straw men say that microevolution within types proves that macroevolution has occurred. If these small changes can occur over a short period of time, think what natural selection can do over a long period of time. Unfortunately for Darwinists, genetic limits seem to be built into the basic types. For example, dog breeders always encounter genetic limits when they intelligently attempt to create new breeds of dogs. Dogs may range in size from the Chihuahua to the Great Dane, but despite the best attempts of intelligent breeders, dogs always remain dogs. Likewise, despite the best efforts of intelligent scientists to manipulate fruit flies, their experiments have never turned out anything but more fruit flies, and usually crippled ones at that. This is especially significant because the short life of fruit flies allows scientists to test many generations of genetic variation in a short period of time. I don't know, precisely what they're talking about, but once again, I think they're wrong, based solely on the grounds that they've been wrong all the way up to this point. That's fucking dumb. And good lord. They say dogs, are still dogs. Look at the difference in dog types. It's not... Actually go look at a Great Dane and a Chihuahua and tell me they don't almost look like totally different animals. That seems more like an argument for microevolution and macroevolution than it does for anything they're saying here. And what breeders are trying to turn dogs into not dogs? What? I don't know. This is stupid. I can't tell where the stupid ends and the stupider begins. Most importantly, the comparison between natural selection and the artificial selection that breeders do is completely invalid, as Table 6.1 demonstrates. The biggest difference is the fact that artificial selection is intelligently guided, while natural selection is not. And table 6 is just a whole bunch. It's just like very obviously. It's just a list of the very obvious differences between somebody breeding for something specifically and natural selection. Confusing intelligent with non-intelligent process is a common mistake of strawmen. This is the case when I, Norm, debated humanist Paul Kurtz on the topic of evolution. The debate, moderated by TV apologist John Ankerberg, produced this exchange regarding macroevolution. Geisler. Geisler says, Chandra Wickrama Singh, I don't know if I said that right. It notes they are an atheist. I'm going to go look that up really quick, because that may not be the type of atheist they want you to be thinking of. Remember, atheism says only one thing. Atheists do not believe there's a God. Buddhists are atheists. Well, most Buddhists are atheists. Alien worshipping cults, atheists. Oh, he's this panspermia guy they were talking about earlier with the astronomer Fred Hoyle. Okay. The panspermia guy. I don't know that... Okay, but whatever. He says, believing that life came by chance is like believing that a Boeing... Oh, he's the guy that did the 747 thing. That a Boeing 747 resulted from a tornado going through a junkyard. You have to have a lot of faith to believe that. Kurtz, well, the Boeing 747 evolved. We can go back to the Wright brothers and see that first kind of airplane they created. Geisler created... Yeah, this is just Geisler being an asshole again. Once again, creationists don't understand metaphors or analogies. They can't. Apparently. I'm just going to skip this because it's stupid. And frankly, I'm sick of reading Geisler talk. I'm sick of hearing Geisler talk. Indeed, directional changes... it is, in fact, the Kurtz guy trying to dumb down an explanation of evolution to the point where these guys can understand it, talking about the Boeing 747 thing with the evolution as by making an analogy, the evolution of the airplane from the airplane that the Wright brothers created, and of course this guy's just being like, "Oh, they created it." Fucking idiot. Fuck this asshole. Like I said, I'm sick of hearing Geisler talk. This whole book is him talking. I don't want to hear his actual words quoted in debates. Indeed, directional change in airplanes by intelligence proves nothing about the possibility of directional change in things without intelligence. I bet it does. I'm not going to sit here thinking about it because I want to get through this book. As we'll see in the next section, directional change in living things by natural selection has not been observed, and directional change in living things with intelligence hits genetic limits, so even when it is intelligently guided, evolution hits walls. In other words, even when scientists intelligently manipulate creatures with an end in mind, which is the antithesis of the blind Darwinian process, macroevolution still doesn't work. They're wrong still, and I don't think I have all the information at hand to fucking explain just how wrong they are, and I don't really care. This book has damaged my ability to care about it by just being fucking stupid every step of the way. God fucking damn. 2. Cyclical change. Not only are there genetic limits to change within types, but the change within types appears to be cyclical. In other words, changes are not directional toward the development of a new life form as macroevolutionary theory requires. No! No, it's not! Fucking evolutionary theory is not directional! You idiots! You fucking retards! It selects for things that currently help something to survive long enough to reproduce, or to reproduce with more mates, or to produce more offspring. Whatever, to pass on as much of its genetic material as possible. That's what it selects for. There's no direction. It's non-directional. If you look back over it and see a direction, that's purely accidental. Fucking stupid. If they look at it and see directional evolution, it's just because they're so used to thinking about God creating something, they can't conceive of anything else. Fuck this asshole. How much longer have I got? Yeah, this goes on for a while. And keeps going, and going, and going. And then we get to chapter 7, which is apparently titled Mother Teresa versus Hitler. Great. Ay, ay, ay. Hey, you want to take over from me for a bit? You can read, right?
I'm okay.
She's good. Damn. I wanted to get out of this.
Find a good stopping place.
Okay, I'm gonna take a break now. I don't know if I'll upload this as its own video, or if I'll just, stitch the next one together. Actually, this has been running for an hour now. This will be its own video. We're gonna take a break in the middle of chapter 6. We'll probably take several more breaks because I don't know how much of this I can take, and if it's gonna take me an hour to read. It's going to take me an hour to get through every 6 pages. Chapter 6 may be broken down into a lot of videos. But I'm sick of this for today. They are attacking evolution, which, as proven as gravity, guys, I'm sure they're going to talk about transitional life forms and shit, and I don't... Oh my god. Remember this from me. As surely as the Earth goes around the sun, evolution happens, and these guys are idiots and don't understand it. They are arguing against straw evolution, their own made-up form of evolution that makes no sense. And they're arguing against straw evolutionists, the Darwinists, the straw men. Oh, and thanks to this video, I'll forever be replacing Darwinist with straw man in my head. Yeah. Like I said, I'll post the link to that talkorigins.org article on speciation. I really doubt that would hold up to their exacting standards. Fucking morons. Nah. They'd just find something about it they didn't like and throw the whole thing out. Fuck them. They'd be like, well, no, we're not talking about species that close together. We're talking about broader. And then, if you brought out evidence that was broader, they'd be like, no, broader than that even. It's what they do with the fucking transitional fossils. You show them a transitional fossil, and they're like, no, well, that's obviously its own thing, or that's obviously, just a subset of this, or subset of the other side. I think there's actually a good Futurama episode about that. Now I want to watch Futurama. Once again, something better than this book. That fucking South Park is funnier than this book. I hate that show. That show's stupid. Oh. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna throw that link in the description, and that's gonna be it for today because I can't take anymore.